Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May. I'm a Senior Manager of Trading and Derivatives Education here at Schwab, and this is Getting Started with Thinkorswim, and we've done it. We've reached the end of our series of 8 lessons on getting acquainted with the Thinkorswim desktop platform for the very first time. Today, we're going to finish off those final tabs on the Thinkorswim platform. We're walking through the Tools tab, the Education tab, and the Help tab. This one's going to be mostly about learning. So learning about the markets, learning about Thinkorswim itself, lots of great tools and resources that we're going to be covering. Before we can get to any of that, though, let me first of all say hello to everybody out there. Great to see Greg and Sharon and Eva and everybody that joins week after week. We do appreciate your attendance, your contributions to these discussions. If you're here for the very first time, I want to welcome you as well. And if you're watching on the YouTube archive after this live stream has concluded, enjoy the presentation, but be aware that you're invited to join us in a live discussion. This is a Wednesday webcast series. We kick things off promptly at 2 Eastern every Wednesday. I'd love to have you here in the live stream audience. And as a treat, as I always say, for my live stream audience members right now, we have my very good friend, Kevin Horner. Kevin's going to be hanging out in the chats. He's going to be addressing any questions that I can't get to. Thanks for having my back there, Kevin. Kevin and I have been working with each other now for years. So yeah, great resource to have. And Kevin and I would also like to issue an invitation to everyone watching. If you have an account on the platform known as X, you should be following your favorite presenters there. It's the very best place to connect with your favorite presenters in between these live streams when the camera is not running. Hello there, Mighty Mouse and Kevin and Corinne and Saul, Michael, everybody else. We do appreciate your attendance here, but let's get into today's discussion. And as we do, we need to bear in mind that risk is real when investing and with trading. So keep these important disclosures in mind. Options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research. Investing involves risks, including the loss of principal, and any investment decision you make in your self-directed account is solely your responsibility. So let's get right to this. Jack says, is there a way to send a watch list directly to a multi-chart? Jack, that might take me a little bit off track. Actually, when we do save even a scan, it saves automatically as a watch list. I won't be covering that, with my apologies today, Jack, but we have covered that sort of thing in previous lessons. So if you weren't here, and I think Jack has been, but in any case, if you haven't caught our previous lessons, here we find ourselves on Lesson 8, Tools, Education, and Help tabs. But we've already covered downloading and navigating the Thinkorswim platform, using the tools and resources available on the Monitor tab, the Trade tab, the Charts tab, the Scan, Market Watch, and Analyze tabs. But if you need to catch up on any of those, let me show you where you can do that. So if you haven't done this already, make sure that you have subscribed to our Trader Talks channel here on YouTube. And you can do that just by going down the lower right-hand corner. Click on that subscribe button. It only takes a second, doesn't cost anything, but you can find our playlist directly on our Trader Talks homepage. So you'll look for Trader Talks Schwab Coaching Webcasts on YouTube, go to the playlists, and then as you scroll down, yep, they had to park somebody at the bottom of all the webcast series that we have. Mine happens to be the one at the very bottom, Getting Started with Thinkorswim. You can click on View Full Playlist, and you will see those other lessons leading right up to today's discussion. You can get caught up if you didn't see those earlier ones. By the way, totally fine if this is your very first one. Watch this one first. That's okay. Then you can circle back, maybe start at lesson 1. But let's get right into this. So today it is just all about using the Tools, Education, and Help tabs on Thinkorswim desktop platform. So we are using the desktop version of Thinkorswim. There's also a web and mobile version. This one's different. This can be downloaded free of charge from within your Schwab Online account. You just go to the Trade tab, look for Thinkorswim as a keyword, click on that, and you'll see a big blue button that will guide you through the process of downloading the software, and then you'll just log in using your Schwab username and password, same credentials to get into this platform. But let's go right to the Tools page. And I'm going to start with the sub tab here. So there are 4 sub tabs here on that Tools tab: ThinkLog, Videos, Shared Items, and ThinkScript. And we'll just go through these left to right, get acquainted with them in good detail. But when we first go to the ThinkLog page, you'll see, oh no, it's blank. There's nothing here. Well, what this is doing is it'll quickly retrieve all throughout Thinkorswim. There are little areas where we can leave notes for ourselves. Those are called think logs, and this will appear here on this page. So as an example, let me just sort of set the stage. Let's go to our charts for just a moment, and I'm going to use Walmart for demonstrating a couple of features here today. What a technical trader might note is that Walmart had struggled to get above that 100 level for a stretch of about 6 months. And then it finally blasted up and through there, got up to about 105, and then has pulled back down. And that previous price ceiling is maybe acting as a new price floor. And let's just say that our traders are in a Walmart position, starting to take off above that 100 level. And as a matter of fact, we do own shares previously acquired of Walmart in this paper money account, right? But let's say that our trader thinks, well, I'm going to put a stop in. I'm going to put a sell order in to get out if the stock starts to misbehave. And maybe they're going to do that down here, who knows, maybe around $98. So let's go add that stop to this position. So we can go to our monitor tab. And as we learned in a previous webcast, we can actually just right click on an existing position and let's create a stop order, creating a closing order with a stop. So that takes us right to our trade tab. Let's maybe put in a stop at $98. Make that a good till cancel order. And I'm going to click confirm and send. With a stop order, of course, we have to be aware that there's no guarantee that the execution price will be equal to or near the activation price. In other words, if we're putting in a stop at $98, we call that our activation price, our trigger price. That'll send a market order off, at which point the market order fills for whatever the market price is at the time our order reaches the front of the line. It could be less than $98, but I'm going to send that off. So now we have a stop in place, and up here under our working orders, we can see that stop right here. Well, we can actually add a note to that order. So if we look at our current position, there's our stop down here. Well, we might be thinking, let's say our trader is thinking, if we can just get above that 105, maybe that'll be the next level up. And maybe I can move my stop up at that point to be maybe at 103 instead of being $2 below this support level. Maybe move that up to $2 below the next level. So maybe as a reminder to myself, I add a note to this order. Let's say move stop if stock breaks above. And that's just one example of a sort of note that a trader might leave for themselves. But if we want to see all of those notes aggregated wherever we've placed them on the platform, that's where we can go back to this charts tool, and under the think log, there's that note. We just added it. Sell that. This is our current stop with that note attached. So that is the function of the think log, and we can actually remove those if we want to right from here. I'm not going to do that. But let's move on to the second tab on the Tools tab, and that is the Videos page. Kind of nifty. Now, I've already preloaded this with Walmart. If there wasn't a symbol in here, we'd be looking at kind of a blank page. But when we type in a symbol, what it's going to do is go retrieve videos relating this. These are going to be new videos. You'll notice today is the 20th of August. There's one dated just yesterday where there was a news report. You can see the providers of these videos, see the sources of these videos. But a news report that included discussion of Home Depot. So it loads that video here. We can see the headline of that video over here to the right, and we can actually play the video. I'm not going to play the video right now, but there is a play button right here. I could just watch that video, see what it had to say about Home Depot. So this is a really nice tool that's pulling all of those news discussions about maybe a stock of interest and keeping them into one little handy quick retrieval location. Now down below in this lower left, you'll also see there are some other symbols. So we have Walmart, which was the symbol that we were interested in for today's discussion. But there's also Home Depot and Lowe's and Target. That's because those companies were also mentioned in this video. Right? Now, if we want to see the other videos, we can just click on the headlines and it'll load up the next video. And you'll notice the the symbols down in the lower left changed because now this is a video, yes, about Walmart, but also Home Depot and Target. So that's kind of a cool feature. I think a lot of these little tools and features can get overlooked. Maybe a trader's intimidated by using them for the first time. Well, let's try to remove that intimidation just by demonstrating it today. All right, so we're going to be moving on now to the shared items tab or sub tab on the tools menu. But I got to call something out. I just noticed, thank you for pointing this out, Eva, there has been a survey that's been added to the chat window. So there's a link for those that are here in the live stream. You can click that link and give me some honest feedback about how you think this discussion went. Now, obviously, this is early in the webcast. So do me this favor. If you click that link right now, it'll populate the survey, and then you can fill it out at the end of the discussion when you can give me that honest feedback. I'll just tell you a couple of things about that survey. Number one, it's really short. 2 multiple choice questions, a comments box, and a suggestion box. So it only takes a minute to fill the whole thing out. But also number 2 is that it doesn't just disappear into the ether. I read through that data. I read through all the survey comments. I parse my way through that data, and it always helps. It's never a wasted effort. So thanks for filling that out for me. Definitely appreciated. But let's now go back to the Tools tab and look at this Shared Items tab. Now, shared items. What are shared items? Well, there are lots of features on Thinkorswim where one user of Thinkorswim may have something they want to share with another user that they can share through a link. Maybe it's a chart, maybe it's a grid of charts, maybe it's a scan they put together. Lots of these things, when a trader does some work and they want to share that work efficiently with someone else who also uses Thinkorswim, they can share things. So as an example, if we were on our chart of Walmart, maybe our trader was thinking, oh, I did a pretty good job of identifying support at a couple of levels. Maybe I want to share this with my buddy who's also keeping an eye on Walmart, whatever. Well, we can share that chart just right up here. You'll notice there's a share button. So if I click on share, I can give this a name. So let's say we call this the Walmart, let's abbreviate that, Walmart support bounce. And you've probably noticed on that tab I was already demonstrating, I already did this. So I'm just going to show you what I did. So you'll notice it says share name should be unique. Yeah, I already used this one. But in any case, if I click on share, that will automatically create a link. And we don't even need to go copy the link. It will already be in your notepad. In other words, just by clicking on share, I can now just go right click and share it. I don't have to go save, or I don't have to go copy it anywhere. In any case, as we share things, it can be tough to keep tabs on, okay, what have I shared? What's been shared with me? That's what can be found here under this Tools Shared Items tab. So this is the items that we have published or shared. These are the shared links that we have received and loaded into our own platform from other users. So there we go. There's that Walmart support bounce as an example. Now you'll notice this isn't dated as of the moment of this discussion. I've created this several hours ago. But that's the function of the shared items. We can look for it for just recently. We can look for just the last 24 hours, the last month. We can set a specific date range. I'll let you explore that on your own. But let's move on to this one. This is a big one. It's a popular one. Who are our ThinkScript fans in the audience right now? Got 117 people watching. I'll bet there are at least a couple of dozen that really enjoy this ThinkScript feature. So if you're not familiar with ThinkScript, I'm going to give you a high-level introduction to it because there is a learning curve to this. But basically, Thinkorswim has a lot of fabulous tools and resources that our engineers have created. And they published it through the Thinkorswim platform, and you have access to it. But they can't always think of everything. And traders are a pretty inventive bunch. They like to come up with their own indicators that they've just imagined in their minds. They've come up with their own search functions that they've just imagined in their minds. And they wish, boy, I wish Thinkorswim had this thing that I just thought of, but it's not here. Well, if we can conceptualize it, it's quite possible it can just be built manually by the Thinkorswim user using a programming language that's called ThinkScript. That's what ThinkScript is. Now, that can sound a little bit intimidating, and there is a learning curve to using ThinkScript There are some built-in shortcuts to using ThinkScript, but this isn't a webcast. It's all about ThinkScripting. But I do want to give you some resources later when we move into that education tab that can really assist with this, right? So Patrick says, I missed where you clicked on share. So Patrick, that was just right at the top of any chart. You'll see the share button right there. Okay. And there are other things a trader can do, like if maybe they've created a grid and they want to share that grid. If you click on the grid, you'll notice there's an option to share the grid. Yeah. So there are lots of little embedded share functions here that you'll discover as you're poking around Thinkorswim. And all of those are aggregated there on that shared items tool right there. All right. Saul says, I've amassed many shared items and scripts. Do you have a video which covers general maintenance of a rule of thumb? I don't have one of those, Saul. It's not a bad idea for a future webcast. Maybe I'll put that in my list for a future demonstration. But in general, you just want to do that right here on the shared items page. Clean it up as you see necessary. You can just remove one if you want to. So let's move on to the education tab. Oh, look at this. This is actually going to allow me. So obviously I was out on the education tab before. It's timed out. Don't be intimidated by that. It just means I was in here looking at a course, which is linked to the Schwab site, and it times out for security reasons. Just hit the refresh button. No big deal. Actually, sorry, no. Go to the home page, and you can just start from scratch. But in any case, on the education tab, there are two big, different, very distinct arenas of learning here. So the education tab, you'll see two sub-tabs. One says education, the other one says learning center. Those almost sound like the same thing. Isn't education and learning, aren't the same thing? Not exactly the same thing. As a matter of fact, they're very different. When I see the education sub-tab, I think, okay, this is teaching me about the markets, about investing, about trading, broad concepts like that. Now, instead, if I want to learn explicitly about Thinkorswim, that's what the Learning Center is. All right. So that's the distinction between the two. Is that helpful to help you sort of compartmentalize what these two very similar sounding features are? Education versus the Learning Center. So let's start with the education page first. And this is organized very neatly into just another row of tabs. I like the navigation here where you just click on a tab, you click on a sub tab, you go down to the next tab, and to me, it's fairly intuitive. But the very first tab, the default tab on the education page, and this is where it's going to take us back to if we've sort of dug in deeper into these features and we want to just get back to square one, just like you saw me do, you just click on home. Okay, that takes you right back here. This is Insights and Education. And regardless of which tab we're reviewing, and I'll show a few so that you sort of get the rhythm of the navigation of these. As we scroll down through, you're going to see some broad themes here for the educational resources. There are going to be articles, there are going to be videos, and there are going to be courses. Now, additionally, there are also going to be podcasts. Kind of a cool thing. But in any case, starting on the Insights and Education, this is sort of the broadest, the least narrow of these features on the Education tab. Right at the top, you're going to see some articles and a podcast link right down here. But I think it's interesting. Come to this page, see what's sort of new in the broad educational view of the markets. Health sector still struggling. Interesting sounding article as I scroll down a little bit further. Stocks are down before the Fed minutes. Second quarter 2025 retail earnings summary right there. There's Lizanne and Kathy's podcast link. As I go down a little bit further, got my very good friend Joe Mazzola here providing articles with updates on today's options market. A little bit further down, some investing basics resources. And these, the big key here is just to look, each one is labeled as a video, as an article, as a podcast. I can see that these are videos, investing basics for stocks, investing basics for bonds, Anyway, what I would encourage you to do is to scroll down through here and just explore these educational resources with the understanding these are broad, not Thinkorswim specific, but broader than that market concepts. And you can even find what are called learning paths, which link articles to videos that are with a theme associated. So, for example, maybe you're just interested in learning about, let's look at technical analysis. Maybe we're interested in learning about technical analysis, and we want a learning path for technical analysis. I can just click on that, and this will walk us through sort of step by step. It provides an estimate for how long it will take. It tells how many related items there are, and it tells us the level of delivery. This is sort of a beginner's approach to technical analysis. So first of all, it links us to the course for technical analysis, and then it follows that up with a webcast called Getting Started with Technical Analysis. So let's go back to our home. So just remember, if we started to dig in and we start to feel a little bit lost, what can we do? You can hit the back button. That'll take you essentially back one page, just like it would on pretty much any browser. Or we can just click the home. That'll take us right back to sort of the anchor point, which is the Insights and Education tab. Now, let's say that our trader has a more narrow focus. Maybe they're interested in learning about, stock investing or trading. So we can go to stocks, and this is now tailored to just that area of interest. So it starts off with some articles. They're going to be stock articles. As I go down a little bit further, we have videos for stock trading and investing. A little further still, webcasts. Down below that, and these are again all for stocks. There's a podcast related to stocks, courses related to stocks, income investing, fundamental analysis, technical analysis, and so on. So I'll let you explore the rest of those. I think that shows you the general navigation here. And to me, it seems pretty intuitive, fairly straightforward. And again, to find it, Education tab, and then the Education sub-tab. So I'll just take it back to the home page. I think that has us ready to go look at what's available on the Learning Center. And since I'm talking about getting started with Thinkorswim today, this is sort of my best pal. It's a great supplement for my efforts specifically in helping people learn about Thinkorswim. So the Learning Center is the Thinkorswim Learning Center. And it also has a row of tabs. And as you scroll down a little bit further, you're going to see additional resources down below. But these tabs, I want to explore these in a little bit more granular detail, just so that we've broken the ice there as well, and we're comfortable with that navigation. But the very first item is something known as the Think Manual. It really is it's just like a manual for using anything. So if you just bought a new handy, electronic device and it comes with a manual, read it. That's what this is. Now we can link to the Think Manual right here on this tab, or we can link to it here. And what you'll notice is there's a lot of crossing of streams here with the different tabs. ThinkScript can be accessed here. It can also be accessed right down here as well. But I'm going to click on Think Manual up here at the top. And what you'll see is this loads up in the left sidebar a bunch of very familiar sounding headings. All right. Hey, we have an Analyze here. We also have an Analyze right here. So this is an educational resource to specifically help us understand what these tools on the Analyze tab do. Charts tab, or the charts heading here, is educational resources to support learning about Thinkorswim's charts feature. So as an example, let's click on that Analyze tab. And as we do, I immediately have access to a video. I'm tempted to click play. I don't want to click play while I'm streaming, but we could watch this video, which is a good overview introduction to the Analyze tab. And then as I go further down, it's going to go through each of these sub-tabs on that Analyze tab. So we have the simulated trades tab. We have the risk profile feature. We have the probability analysis feature, and then also think back. So this is really very handy when we're a first-time user on Thinkorswim and we're encountering a new tool. We don't know how it works. We don't know what it's supposed to do. Well, there's a resource for that. We just pop to the Learning Center, go to the Think Manual, and explore. All right, so let's go back to the home page. So just as we did with the Education tab, we can get back to our anchor point, our home page, by clicking on this. Now, this is going to be specifically the home for the Learning Center, not the home for the education. But as I click on home, now I can explore these other tools. So for example, we have ThinkScript. And I said, ThinkScript there's a learning curve to it. So we have resources available to support you in that learning curve. So here's our ThinkScript educational. This is not a comprehensive list of all the educational resources that we have. Outside of this, we would want to include the webcast series, like the one that you're watching right now. But this does include things like the ThinkScript tutorials. That's a great starting point. ThinkScript tutorials will start off with a basic approach, getting progressively more advanced, but providing an overview first. So if you want to learn about ThinkScript, it tells you what it is, where to find it, and then how to use it. All right, so definitely want us to be aware of that resource. Now, another resource, and we can access this by clicking up here at the top. We can also go back to the home page. I just am trying to give some repetition for this navigation. We have a glossary. Very commonly, traders will be on Thinkorswim and they'll encounter something that's either specific to Thinkorswim, or maybe it's just a broader concept, but an unfamiliar term. So we have a glossary of those terms right here. So you'll notice the depth to which this explores those terms. So for example, I'm just going to pick one at random. Here under the B's in alphabetical order, butterfly spread. What in the world is a butterfly spread? Well, a butterfly spread is an option position composed of either all calls or all puts, with the exception of an iron butterfly with long options at two different strikes, and so on. Now, I don't want to explain exactly what a butterfly spread is right now because this is doing it for me. So just be aware there's that great glossary resource. And then, yes, there are some broader questions. So I went to the FAQ here. How could I have also found the FAQ? I would have gone back to that homepage. But the FAQ is going to just take us through some frequently asked questions, starting with general questions. What are holiday hours for traders? Technical setup scenarios for Thinkorswim, and so on. So I'll let you explore those on your own. Now, finally, I shouldn't say finally, because I'm thinking, there's something else I want to show you. But in any case, up here, top right, is a tab called Release Notes. What are the release notes? Well, Thinkorswim very regularly updates or improves, refines the platform. I think that should be the case with pretty much any piece of technology. Constant upgrades, constantly keeping up with the times, constantly discovering something new and adding that for the benefit of the users. Well, when those changes are made or additions are made, there's a description of those that's released right here under the release notes. So if we were to just come to the Learning Center and we find ourselves on the home page, we could click on the release notes, and this is going to show us, like, just about a week and a half ago, there was a release these are typically done over the weekend to try to minimize any impact, that sometimes with technological upgrades, there can be a hiccup every once in a while. But in any case, this will provide a good description of what exactly was added to or changed on the platform. So for example, let's scroll down a little bit. Hey, there's an expanded keyword. There are new categories in the keyword search. So if you're a fan of using our news sources in live news, we've made it easier to pull articles with topics that matter. We've expanded the keyword search to include a wider array of categories. This means a much longer list of keywords will be supported going forward to access keyword search. And then it talks us through that new change. So I do get the question from time to time, and Cameron, something changed on Thinkorswim. How come somebody didn't tell me about it? Thinkorswim always tells us about it. They put it right there in the release notes. All right, now finally, if we have an area of specific interest, and this time I'm saying finally because I did want to show something else. Let's say it could be a term, it could be a tool. If we have something that we want, that we're interested in, we're on the Learning Center, and we just want to zip right to that thing, just use a keyword search. So, for example, maybe the Analyze tab is what we're interested in. And I can see as I start to type in the word Analyze, the menu that appears below that keyword search box will start to propose, is this what you're looking for, Cameron? I might say, yeah, actually, the Analyze Education in the Think manual, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I click on that, takes me right to that page that I showed you a little bit earlier. So the educational resources, you can see, I think, are pretty in-depth. Explore those at your own pace, knowing that education is for broad market concepts. Learning Center is for Thinkorswim. Now, sometimes you just can't get something figured out, or you hit a snag. You just need some help. Well, help shouldn't be difficult to get, and it's not. We just need to remember that there is a help feature here, and we can get help through a few ways. First of all, we can call on the phone. You can call support there at 800-435-9050. There's your teletypewriter for the hearing impaired. There's that number right there. There's also a live chat feature with these hours. So if we want to access live chat, we just want to chat with somebody. Maybe we want to be quiet. Maybe your partner's in the room and you don't want to disturb them. So you want to pop onto live chat. Just click on support here. That's going to connect you to live chat. I'm not going to start a new support request, but that's where we would go to access that live chat. Okay, so I'm going to close that area. So guys, that I think is going to round out our series of 8 lessons on getting started with Thinkorswim. Doesn't mean that's the end of the learning, though. I'm going to just call it good. That's lesson 8. We've accomplished what I set out to do here. I wanted to discuss the tools tab, the education tab, and the help tab. Doesn't mean that because we finished the 8 lessons, I'm just going to stop doing these getting started with Thinkorswim webcasts. No, instead, I'm just going to explore different features on Thinkorswim in greater detail, but not necessarily with the structure of that 8 lesson outline. So if you would do me this favor, make sure if you haven't subscribed to our Trader Talks channel that you've done that. So you can go down in the lower right-hand corner, click on the subscribe button. As I always say, it only takes a second. It doesn't cost anything to do that. But our Trader Talks channel is where we house previous webcasts. And you can also join our live streams here as well. But as I've demonstrated, you can go to the playlist here, scroll straight to the bottom, and that's where you'll find the archives for this webcast series, Getting Started with Thinkorswim. So next time you go there, it'll say lesson 8 of 8. It'll have this new lesson, but you can also find previous webcasts that were not quite as structured, but more specific than these 8 lessons. So here's a guide to the active trader tool on Thinkorswim, for example. All right. Now, I also want to invite you to follow Kevin and me on X. You can follow Kevin there at Kevin Horner CS. You can follow me on X at Cameron May CS. It is the best place to connect with me in between these live streams. This is where I'll go post things like, you know what? Actually, it's college football season almost kicking off. I'm a big college football fan, so I asked my followers, are you also a fan? But before that, a big drop on Target. Previously, drops on this stock have preceded big rallies. I wondered if my followers think, is this most recent big drop today going to be a precursor to another big rally, or could we just continue to sell off? Time will tell, but we can have these sorts of discussions on X. And if you reply to one of my posts on X, I just try to reply right back to you. Typically 10, 15 times a day, I'm replying to somebody. So everybody, that's going to do it. I do want to thank everybody for giving me your time and your attention and the thumbs up. That's always appreciated. 106 people watching the live stream right now, and I can see the 41 have already clicked that thumbs up. That's a pretty good ratio. That does a couple of things when you click that thumbs up. It gives a pat on the back to your presenter for a job well done, but it also boosts their webcast in the YouTube algorithm. So that's always appreciated. Just like with subscribing to the channel, it doesn't cost anything. It literally only takes a second. So I hope you have that habit, clicking that thumbs up every time you've enjoyed one of our webcasts. All right, I'll let you go. As you do, there was that survey. So if you're in the live stream audience, now's your opportunity. Click on that survey link, fill it out. I'll read through that data, and I always read your comments. It's always helpful. All right, everybody, go have a great day. I will see you in a future webcast. I will also look for you on X, but whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish you the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.